We have lots of NHL news and rumors around the league to discuss today, including some offseason trade talk around the Vancouver Canucks. Could they try to reacquire former captain and centerman Bo Horvat from the Islanders? Vancouver media has been talking a lot about the need for more center depth and if a reunion with their former captain could be in the cards. We'll discuss that possibility, plus some trade talk around the Buffalo Sabres. There's also a rumor floating around about the Islanders possibly being for sale. We'll discuss what we've heard and what we've kind of see there going down, plus news from the NHL waiver wire, a bunch more signings and injury updates, some other updates as well around the Stanley Cup playoffs and the wild card race in the Eastern Western Conference. Another big update as well on the arena situation in Ottawa, going to LeBreton Flats and downtown, and what kind of timelines they might be looking at there. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We got a bunch of smaller items to get to here first, including some waivers news, a bunch of signings and roster moves. So let's get started with that stuff. From the waiver wire, the Predators have two players on waivers today, including Kiefer Bellows and Mark Delgaizo. I would expect both players are probably going to clear. At least nobody in the playoff hunt is going to pick them up, because since we're past the trade deadline, the roster, you have to be with that team to play in the playoffs, which is really, as we've discussed here since the trade deadline, whenever we've talked about any potential trades, it's like you guys realize we're kind of talking about for the offseason here. I still get enough comments kind of confused over that, saying we're past the trade deadline, why are we talking about trades? Because trades can happen anytime. The only real thing around the deadline is that anything that happens after that, you're not eligible for that team in the playoffs. So let's say the Winnipeg Jets went out and picked somebody up right now. Well, they could play with them in the regular season, but they wouldn't be able to play with them in the playoffs, which is kind of, that's why you don't see it happen. There's just no point, because the playoff rosters are basically set, and those teams will make moves in the offseason. But there's still lots of stuff to come here. Got to remember, half the league is going to be in off-season mode in less than a month. So as I mentioned, we've got a couple players on waivers. We'll find out tomorrow, most likely clear. A bunch of news around signings as well. We do have a couple other quick items around injuries. We'll get to that first. Brad Marchand right now might be making his debut with the Panthers this week. Apparently right now they're targeting the Friday game of Florida versus Utah as a potential date that we could see Marchand make his Florida debut. So keep an eye on that situation. In Boston, defenseman Nikita Zadorov had to leave the Bruins road trip. He is going to be out tonight as they do battle the Anaheim Ducks. He had to fly back to Boston to deal with a personal family situation. So obviously no real clear-cut answer on when he's back, but I know the Bruins are obviously on the road right now, so we'll see. I don't have their schedule right in front of me, so I'm not sure when they get back home, but Zadorov is going to be out for at least a bit. And then after that, we got a bunch of signings here to get into as well. A lot of these guys are college players. The Buffalo Sabres today have signed for 2025-26 prospect Tyler Koff. He gets a 2-year ELC. We've got the Blue Jackets have signed a few players here, including Charlie Ellick, who is a 2024 second rounder. He gets his 3-year ELC. He's been playing with the Brandon Wheat Kings in the Western Hockey League. They also signed 22-year-old college player Caleb McDonald from the University of North Dakota. He gets a 2-year ELC because of his age, kicks in next year for 25-26. He's a 6'3", 225-pound defenseman. The Avalanche have also signed goaltending prospect out of Sweden, Isaac Posh. And we've also got the Philadelphia Flyers signing Ty Murchison to a 2-year ELC. He was from ASU, but he was a Flyers draft choice. The defenseman was taken in 2021 in the 5th round. As I mentioned, the wildcard races are certainly heating up on both conferences. We saw the St. Louis Blues beat Montreal last night. They have been arguably, I think statistically, they've been the hottest team in the NHL since the Four Nation face-off tournament break ended, and I think they're kind of giving off vibes of that 2019 team when they went on to win a cup. Not to say they're going to do that again, but it's the same sort of scenario a little later in the year, and it's not quite as dramatic because they weren't like dead last at any point, but I think Jordan Binnington, for one, certainly get reinvigorated from the success at Four Nations. And then obviously a lot of the other guys who had a chance to have a break, obviously, things are just clicking for that team. So they, between St. Louis, Montreal was a big game last night. Both teams in a similar spot. The Blues grabbed it though. So they've got that wild card 2 spot locked down right now. But they do have more games played. They've played 2 or 3 games more than the teams chasing them, like the Flames and the Canucks. And even though the Canucks are dealing with a lot of injury woes, they won again tonight, beating the New York Islanders, which will impact the Eastern race as well. Then the Flames and Nazem Kadri with back-to-back overtime winners. The Flames have been hot. So it's certainly an interesting race, even though the Blues have been, like I said, arguably the hottest team in the league as of late. And have that spot, it looks pretty secure, but if you look at games played, it's really not. If Calgary and Vancouver take care of their own business and win the games they have in hand, it's actually more favorable that one of them is going to grab that spot. But the way the Blues have been playing, there's no room for error for Vancouver and Calgary. There really isn't. A lot of the places that do the odds, like the betting places, have the odds of the Blues getting in on most of them up around 80% now. So obviously they don't feel they're going to lose too many games here down the stretch, which could be, one of those situations where they might be a low-ranking team in the playoffs, but would be a team you absolutely wouldn't want to play. In the Eastern Conference, we've still got the Sens and the Habs locking down wild card spots 1 and 2 with a 4-point gap between the two teams. You get teams like the Islanders and the Rangers right on their heels, especially on Montreal's heels. Like I said, Ottawa has a little bit of breathing room. They did drop the game last night to the Sabres, though, which was really something you can't have happen when you're in the middle of a playoff race. You got to beat the teams below you. But the thing that's been working well for the Sens and helped Montreal as well last night is the out-of-town scoreboard has often been favorable here. The Sens' record in the last, I think in their last 10, they've won 7 or 8 games. So it's not like they've been, slumping or anything. They've had a good stretch with a few kind of so-so games where they've lost. But when they have lost, they seem to be getting the good fortune of the out-of-town scoreboard. So like last night, the Rangers lost, the Red Wings lost. Of course, the Habs and Sens both lost, so there was really no movement. Nobody was winning. It seemed like it's all the same. So, and then tonight, the Islanders are losing, it should be pretty much over now. As I record this video, the Canucks already hit the empty net before I hit record. So the Islanders are going to lose tonight, which will help the Sens and the Canadiens as well. So we'll see what happens here in the Eastern race, but it's certainly getting more and more interesting as the schedule continues to tick down here. Now, speaking of the Senators, a quick update from President Skelliter today, talking with Bruce Garrick of the Ottawa Sun, giving an arena update. Skelliter says, based on everything going on with LeBreton Flats and dealing with the NCC and everything, that they're preparing right now to be in the Canadian Tire Center for 5 more years. They don't think they can get shovels in the ground. They're estimating it could be 2+ years to even get a shovel in the ground, probably closer to 3. If you consider all the stages that are left to get this deal to be even rock solid and firm, we still have to get a point where they get a firm value so they can officially, make the purchase. And then obviously the land needs a bunch of remediation work and everything. And it's a long ways off. So as much as this deal has been talked about and everything for a while, it's a long ways off. So Sens fans, if you're local to the team at all and you'd like to attend games, don't plan on being downtown anytime soon. I would expect that Michael Landlauer and company there will continue to put work into the CTC to make it as best as possible. It is a nice arena. I don't think anybody has too many issues with the CTC. I know I've been there probably a half dozen times now. I like it. It's a great arena. It's just for a lot of people, the location is the problem. So we will see what happens, but not a promising update. They're still pretty optimistic and, that it's going to work out and that they're going to get the downtown arena. It's not so much that, it's just the timeline. And when you're dealing with government, nothing is quick. And on top of that, all the work that has to be done, and then, of course, the time to build. The Flames are going to be ahead of the Senators, get their new arena, no, for sure. They've already got shovels on the ground. They're already underway. So for Canadian teams, they'll be the next one to get their arena lined up. Some news out of Los Angeles as well. John Hoven, of course, known as the mayor out there, Mayor's Manor, is what he has his podcast or actually, I think it's the Kings of the podcast, is what he calls the podcast, but his blog, the website that he updates, has some important information regarding some Kings prospects. There's a few that they're going to be moving away from and not signing. A couple of reasons. One, they're just not happy with the player's development. And secondly, of course, you can only have a maximum of 50 pro contracts at a given time. And well, they've got a lot of players already under contract, so they can't sign everyone. But a couple that are particular were Matthew Mania, who's from the OHL, and the other one is Jack Hughes. Now, yes, there's another Jack Hughes, not Jack Hughes that plays for the New Jersey Devils and just had a shoulder surgery and is out for the season, but the other Jack Hughes, the son of Ken Hughes, the GM of the Montreal Canadiens. If you recall, which I believe, based on the timeline, I think that was Hughes' first draft as GM was 2022. There was some talk, speculation, would Montreal and Ken Hughes, would they draft his own son? Like he wasn't a super highly rated prospect, but he was slated, depending on what list you looked at and what ranking you looked at, to go somewhere around late first or second round. And when he did, and he went to the Los Angeles Kings in round 2. I thought if he was available maybe a little later, because the Habs had a lot of picks that year, maybe they might take him. But he started his first couple of years with Northeastern. Then he played the last 2 years with BU, mostly on the second line. Had some flashes of looking real good, but he also had a lot of flashes of inconsistency, which is what's held him back from getting a contract. So at this point, obviously Jack Hughes, I think if it wasn't for his dad being an NHL general manager, yes, and his name, of course, is just kind of comical as well, because there's another, not only another player named Jack Hughes, but he's a star player at that, gets a little bit more attention because of that. So we'll see. I know there's been some talk around Montreal media. Will they sign Jack Hughes? I mean, it's, obviously just comical because of the name and the fact that his dad is the GM. So again, we don't know what's going to happen at this point. If he had more time to play in college hockey, it might not even be a story, because it might be a while before he's ready for that pro contract, but he's already got 4 years in the NCAA. So he's going to be looking for a pro opportunity of some sort. Maybe he gets an AHL only deal, perhaps. Hard to say, but considering, how high he was drafted, it's unfortunate for LA. It really is. Like that pick didn't pan out. Like, he was a high pick. You don't often see second round picks not at least get an ELC. It does happen, but a lot of those guys at least get a contract. Now, of course, if they would have been playing major junior, could have signed sooner and could have had more. It would have been a different scenario. But because he was a college player, you can't sign your ELC and be a college player at the same time. So we'll see what happens with the future of Jack Hughes, son of Ken Hughes. Will he end up in Montreal like his dad or elsewhere? Don't know. But like I said, if it wasn't for his prominence of his father, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it, because overall it's just another prospect that, unfortunately, so far at least, has not panned out. Now, as I mentioned as well, there is some rumors, and we'll call them unsubstantiated rumors. Well, a lot of rumors are just that in the beginning, but there were some rumblings, according to some, and I'm still doing this. Is fresh that I just came across this evening before hitting record. So again, haven't had a lot of time to dig too deep into it, but I certainly will be checking around and keeping an eye on some more prominent Islander reporters. But there's one source that they're suggesting that the Islanders might be sold, and that Malkin and Ledecky, who own the Islanders, might be selling the team to Mets owner Steve Cohen. Now, to be honest, I think that would be great. I know there's some that were convinced that this was more of a real estate play for those two anyway, and now that they have the new arena, UBS, maybe this could be something we could see. It might be the best thing for the team, to be honest. I'm not saying they're bad owners. They're certainly an upgrade over what some of the other previous ones that the Islanders have had, but this team has been stuck in mediocrity, for a number of years now. And you got Lou Lamoriello at the helm. Lou's had a great career, but a lot of people are thinking it's time to let somebody else run this organization. Obviously he still wants to work. He's one of those guys you just don't think he's ever going to quit, right? Like, he just loves the game so much that he doesn't want to just retire and go enjoy some time with your family before you don't have that opportunity. Like, he might just be a guy that works until he can't work no more. Hard to say, but at the end of the day, the Islanders have, and under this current ownership, have made good strides, get a new arena. There's been lots of positivity that have come from it. But they're at a point where attendance is not great right now, even though they're in a playoff push here. There's still empty seats, and I was just watching the game against the Canucks. Attendance is not horrible, but it's not great for a brand new arena. I am sure they're looking at these numbers and that they're concerned. If you think about it, having an extra 2,000-3,000 people in the stands every game makes a significant difference. That's a lot of revenue that's not happening, right? So, that makes a huge difference. And Steve Cohen, obviously a man of very deep pockets, has done wonders to spend a ton of money on players for the New York Mets. I don't know if he would be the guy for sure. That's just what's out there. I think it'd be great for him because I think the Islanders would become more of a destination for be able to get more players in free agency and a team that more players might want to go to because he's an owner that a lot of players, see as being a big spender, right? So we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's just brand new, just came up. Can't confirm that this is, legit, but there's some out there to think it is, and we'll monitor the situation. And it's probably not going to really have an impact on the day-to-day stuff, but when it comes to their as far as the plans for the team and into the offseason, into next year, etc., it could have an impact for sure. The new ownership, could bring in new leadership, which could bring in a new direction, right? So you just don't know. Depends on from top down who's calling the shots. But speaking of the Islanders, could Bo Horvat end up back in Vancouver? That's been a big topic on Vancouver media this past probably week. I've seen it pop up on numerous occasions. Sekeres and Price and others talking about it. Obviously, the Canucks very much challenging right now with their center depth, especially with the injury to Filipino. And then Pettersson goes down as well, so they're very challenged. But even with Pettersson in the lineup, they're thin at that position. And a lot of talk that, did they really, especially now that JT Miller's gone and I had to trade him to the Rangers, did they really screw up that whole Bo JT scenario? A few years back, it was like they're probably not keeping both. One's going to get a good long-term big money contract. The other's probably getting traded. They sided with JT Miller, signed him, traded their captain who was having a career season. He got a pretty good contract out of the Islanders. He's been a good player for them. You could maybe argue if he's lived up to that contract or not, if it's been completely worth it. I don't know. You could probably have argument both ways, but I mean, it's not like I don't think he's been horrible. But I also knew, and I think most people probably would have picked and suggested that he's not going to live up to the career season he was having in Vancouver when he got the contract. He wasn't going to duplicate that. I don't think anybody thought he would, but for the bulk of his career, he's been a pretty solid, 30-goal, 60, 65 point, type of player. And really at this point in his career, I think they'd love to have him back. Problem is we don't know that the Highlanders are wanting to move him. Like I said, could we see some big changes on Long Island's offseason? It's really possible. We don't know how deep they're going to go with because like I said, there's now this ownership rumor popped up out of nowhere. There's been lots of talk which we've had here about Lou. Is Lou coming back? Is he not? Could they add a president of hockey ops to come in and work with Lou? Could they go after a top free agent if he makes it there like a Mitch Marner? There's been lots of talk about the Islanders and lots of talk about what they may do, and it seems like there's lots of thoughts about what they could do, but nobody really knows. They keep things such secretive there. We don't know at the end of the day. But what would Vancouver offer the Islanders to try to get Horvat back if that's what they really wanted? I mean, they know the player knows them real well. They know that he would be a great fit in the room and on the roster. Does Bo want to go back? Would he be interested in that? It's hard to say, right? I don't know what the Canucks would offer. That's the problem. I mean, we don't know what they're going to do with Brock Besser yet. I mean, he's not signed. Could be a sign and trade, I guess. That's always a possibility, but you never know. That's not real common. So that's the big question for me is what are they going to offer? I don't know. It's not like they have a ton of players that they would just want to move. I mean, the Islanders are not going to move him for it's not like they're just going to reverse the trade because they traded Ratu and some other assets to get him. So it's hard to say, right? But should the Canucks be calling Lou and the Islanders trying to get Bo back, and what would you offer if they had a shot to make it happen? Because Canucks media all over it that could be one of the bigger offseason moves that Vancouver should be looking into, but we'll see. And of course, as I mentioned, Jeff Merrick on his new show, The Sheet, with talking with ESPN's Greg Wyshynski. They were talking about the Buffalo Sabres and wondering if the other way Jeff put it was, could UPL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, could he be the next Linus Ullmark? Now, you might be saying, well, how is that possible? What do you mean? Well, remember, Linus Ullmark was a Buffalo Sabre. Linus Ullmark was a player who was put in a lot of time developing there in Buffalo. Didn't always have great teams in front of him, of course, and struggled at times, was a little bit inconsistent. But at the end of the day, was a great goaltender. And as soon as he left Buffalo, like a lot of other players we've seen, have a lot of success. Goes to Boston, had a phenomenal run there, won a Vezina Trophy. Now he's in Ottawa, first year. Had a few rocky start, but I think he's settled in now for the most part. He's done well. Is he going to win the Vezina this year? No, but he's been a really good goaltender for them. Clearly a goaltender that I'm sure Buffalo probably has regrets losing, because he became a UFA at a young age. And they, to me, when they went, the rumor was there was a year that the NHL was expanding, right? So he was protected in the expansion draft, even though he had no contract, and they still lost him to free agency. They were under the impression that he was going to re-sign, and he did not. Boston came calling. He liked the deal better, and off he went. Could UPL, now UPL is in a different scenario with the contract, but we know the Sabres are going to continue trying to find a few hockey trades and try to continue to shake up this roster a bit to see if they can't get out of this 14-year drought for next year, right? And, with having Devin Levi there, would it be shocking if UPL was traded? No. I mean, he's a goaltender that was drafted and developed and get started with the previous regime. That was before Kevin Adams' time. I'm not sure that he feels a ton of loyalty there. They did give him a decent contract, but he's had kind of an up and down season, but so was, look at the team in front of him, right? So you can just, if you take a look at the Sabres and you say, okay, if I had to pick 2 or 3 guys that were prime candidates that I can see the Sabres maybe trading to shake things up there, I would pick him to be one of them. I would say that they're going to trade one of their more prominent defensemen. More than likely it's Bo Byram. But would it be shocking if it was Power instead? No. But I think Byron's more likely. Dahlin would be a bit of a surprise. I would think they should be careful with that. But again, one of the D, most likely Byram. The other 2, I'd give a lower odds. But something like that I think is likely to happen. And I can see them also, maybe fiddling with their forward core a little bit here as well. Maybe a guy like Jack Quinn, Peyton Krebs, I can see maybe a few of them maybe not be back, but UPL would be the other one that I think is more prime for like a hockey type trade. So does it make sense? It absolutely does. Would it make sense? Like, that's the thing that the Buffalo Sabres have to be careful with, is everybody they seem to trade away goes on to do phenomenal elsewhere. So you got to proceed with caution here and be careful. Get this thing turned around. Be a more competitive team so you're actually battling for the playoffs every year and not having 14-year droughts without it, because the fans deserve better. And the players, you're picking a lot of good players in the draft. You're spending time developing them, but then they get frustrated, they want out, and then look what happens, right? So we'll see. But the Sabres are going to be a very interesting team to watch for sure this offseason. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.